The unexpected saviors. The signal pulsed across the void, a desperate plea carried on quantum frequencies through the endless dark between stars. In the crystalline halls of Valyria Prime, First Speaker Lyria watched with large bioluminescent eyes as their most powerful transmitter sent their final hope into the cosmos. "Is it done?" she asked, her voice melodic but strained with exhaustion. The communications minister, his translucent skin showing the rapid flow of stressed circulatory fluids, nodded solemnly. "The message has been broadcast on all known frequencies, First Speaker. If any civilized species can hear us, they will know of our plight." Lyria gazed through the massive viewport at the once beautiful azure skies of Valyria Prime, now darkened by the ominous silhouettes of Khorm warships. For 3 generations, the Valyrians had existed in peace, building a society based on art, knowledge, and harmony with their environment. Their technological advancements had focused on medicine, environmental stewardship, and exploration rather than weapons or war. That peaceful existence had made them perfect prey for the Khorm Empire. "They will return at dawn," Lyria said, her tendrils drooping in resignation. Their ultimatum was clear: total surrender or total annihilation. The evacuation of the southern continent proceeds, but slowly, her military advisor reported. "Our defense systems barely slow their bombers. We have perhaps 3 planetary rotations before our civilization faces extinction." Lyria closed her eyes. "Then we place our future in the hands of whoever might hear our call." 46 light-years away, aboard the United Earth Defense Force vessel Intrepid, communications specialist Maya Chen sat bolt upright in her chair. "Captain Reyes," she called, fingers flying across her holographic interface, "I'm picking up an encrypted quantum transmission." "It's not one of ours." Captain Alina Reyes, a veteran of the Mars conflict and the Jupiter-Moon insurgency, crossed the bridge in 4 quick strides. At 53, her face was weathered, but her eyes remained sharp, missing nothing. "First contact?" she asked, her voice deceptively calm despite the surge of adrenaline that coursed through her. "It appears to be, Captain," Chen replied, "already running decryption algorithms. The language structure is unlike anything in our databases, but the mathematical patterns suggest it's an intelligent broadcast. And there's something else. The emotional signature analysis indicates distress." Rhea's expression hardened. In the century since humanity had ventured beyond their solar system, they had discovered numerous signs of intelligent life: ruins, artifacts, abandoned outposts, but never made direct contact with an extant alien civilization. Earth's governments had unified under the threat of extinction during the climate catastrophes of the 2100s, and the subsequent technological revolution had catapulted humanity into space with a mixture of caution and determination. "Get me UEHQ," Reyes ordered, "and continue decryption. I want to know what they're saying and who they are." Within hours, the most sophisticated AI translation systems on Earth had decoded enough of the message to understand its essence. A peaceful species called the Valyrians faced imminent destruction at the hands of something called the Khorm Empire. Their plea was simple: help us survive. In the chambers of the United Earth Council in New Geneva, Admiral William Donovan stood before the assembled representatives of humanity. "The Valyrian transmission has been verified as authentic," he stated, his voice echoing through the vaulted hall. "Their civilization is approximately 2,000 years more advanced than ours in medical science, ecological engineering, and quantum communications. However, they possess minimal weapons technology and are defenseless against the invading force." Councillor Zhao of the East Asian Alliance leaned forward. "And what do we know of these Khorm?" "Very little," Donovan admitted. "The transmission describes them as a conquering species that assimilates or destroys all in their path. Their technology appears to be significantly advanced beyond our own." A murmur ran through the assembled leaders. Councillor Mwangi of the African Union rose to her feet. "Admiral, Are you suggesting we intervene in an interstellar conflict when we have barely established ourselves beyond our own solar system, against an enemy that outmatches us technologically? Donovan's face remained impassive, but his eyes burned with the intensity that had made him legendary among the ranks. Counselors, humanity has always defined itself by its choices in moments of crisis. We built this unity from the ashes of near extinction. We survived because we finally learned to stand together. He paused, looking each representative in the eye. This is not merely about the Valyrians. If this Corm Empire exists, and is as aggressive as described, it's only a matter of time before they discover Earth. Better to meet them on our terms, with allies, than wait for them to reach our doorstep. The debate raged for hours, but in the end, a consensus emerged. Humanity would answer the call. The United Earth Fleet assembled at the edge of the Sol system, 28 warships led by the newly commissioned dreadnought Humanity's Resolve. Though primitive by the standards suggested in the Valyrian transmission, they represented the pinnacle of human military ingenuity, combining nuclear fusion drives, electromagnetic weaponry, and adaptive armor systems developed during the Mars conflict. On the bridge of the Resolve, Admiral Donovan addressed the fleet commanders via holographic projection. This mission represents humanity's first step into a larger universe, he said, his weathered face solemn. We do not know what awaits us at Valyria Prime, but we know this. We go not as conquerors, but as defenders. Not for glory, but for survival. The Valyrians called for help, and humanity has answered. Commander Sarah Keller of the assault carrier Defiance spoke up. Sir, our intelligence suggests we'll be significantly outgunned. What's our tactical approach? Donovan's lips curled into a tight smile. Throughout our history, humanity has rarely had the advantage of superior numbers or technology. Commander, we've survived and thrived because we're adaptable, unpredictable, and absolutely relentless when protecting our own. Now, we extend that protection to the Valyrians. He nodded to his tactical officer, who displayed a series of battle simulations. We'll utilize the chaos strategy developed during the asteroid belt campaigns. Multiple entry points, asymmetrical attack patterns, and complete communications disruption. The Corm have no experience with human tactics. Let's ensure their first lesson is painful. As the briefing concluded, the fleet prepared for the quantum jump that would carry them to Valyrian space. Using the coordinates embedded in the distress signal and the experimental drive systems that manipulated spacetime rather than moving through it, they would arrive in less than 72 hours. Admiral Donovan stood at the viewport of the Resolve, watching as the stars blurred and stretched around the ship. Humanity had spent its existence looking to the stars, alternately with wonder and fear. Now they ventured into that vast darkness not as explorers, but as warriors answering a call for help. Let's hope we're not too late, he murmured. The United Earth Fleet emerged from quantum space at the outer edge of the Valyrian system, sensors immediately cataloging the tactical situation. What they found exceeded their worst expectations. Dozens of massive warships surrounded Valyria Prime, their angular, obsidian forms resembling predatory insects. Orbital bombardment had scorched entire continents, while smaller craft systematically destroyed defensive installations and population centers. Dear God, whispered Lieutenant Commander Jackson from Tactical. They're not conquering the planet. They're exterminating it. Admiral Donovan's jaw tightened. All ships, active scanning silence. Deploy stealth drones for closer reconnaissance. I want to know their capabilities before we announce ourselves. For 6 hours, the human fleet observed from the shadow of Valyria's outer moon. The drones revealed a startling truth. While the Corm possessed devastating weaponry in numbers, their tactics were remarkably straightforward. They relied on overwhelming force rather than strategic finesse, their formations rigid and predictable. They've never needed to be clever, Commander Keller noted during the hastily assembled War Council. With their technological advantage, brute force has always been sufficient. Donovan nodded. Then that's their weakness. Humanity has been fighting smarter, not harder, for millennia. He turned to his communications officer. Establish contact with any remaining Valyrian defense forces. Let them know help has arrived. The response came not from military channels, but from a hidden bunker beneath Valyria's northern polar cap. First speaker Lyria herself answered, her translator struggling to convert her musical language to human speech. We had almost abandoned hope, she said, her image flickering on the holographic display. Half our world burns. The Corm ultimatum expires when our primary sun reaches zenith, in approximately 12 of your hours. We've analyzed their fleet positioning, Donovan replied. They've concentrated their forces above your major population centers, leaving their flanks exposed. If your people can hold out, we believe we can disrupt their command structure. The alien's eyes, large and iridescent, blinked slowly. You speak of fighting the Corm. No species has successfully resisted them in living memory. With respect, first speaker, Donovan said with grim determination, they've never encountered humans before. The Corm flagship Inevitable Conquest hung in geosynchronous orbit above Valyria's capital city, its commander observing the systematic destruction with satisfaction. Supreme War Leader Vexkar had conquered 17 worlds for the Empire, each campaign more efficient than the last. The Valyrians were particularly pathetic, advanced enough to be valuable as subjects, but lacking the warrior spirit needed to properly resist. War Leader, his second-in-command, reported, the Valyrians have ceased all evacuation attempts. It appears they are accepting their fate. Vexkar's mandibles clicked in amusement, as all eventually do. Prepare the final bombardment sequence. I want their surrender broadcast to include footage of their governmental district being reduced to ash. Sir, multiple unknown vessels detected on approach vectors. Vexkar turned sharply. Impossible. The Valyrians have no allies in this sector. They are not Valyrian ships. War Leader. Configuration unknown. Size and mass suggest military vessels. Before Vexkar could respond, his tactical display erupted with warnings. The unidentified ships had not approached in formation as any civilized species would, but had scattered to multiple entry points around the Corm fleet's perimeter. Establish communication, he ordered. Inform them that they interrupt an imperial conquest and must withdraw immediately. Instead of a response, the unknown vessels launched what appeared to be primitive missiles, easily intercepted by the Corm's energy shields. Vexkar was about to order a dismissive counterattack when the missiles detonated short of their targets, creating electromagnetic pulses of unprecedented power. Throughout the Corm fleet, ship systems fluctuated and communication channels filled with static. It was a minor inconvenience for their advanced technology, but the disruption lasted just long enough for the real attack to begin. From extreme range, the human vessels fired their main electromagnetic accelerator cannons. The projectiles, traveling at a significant fraction of light speed, carried no explosives. They didn't need to. Their kinetic energy alone was sufficient to punch through the weakened Corm shields and tear through armored hulls. Return fire. Vexkar roared, but the humans were already changing position, using Valyria's moons for gravitational assists that sent them hurtling in unpredictable trajectories. The Inevitable Conquest shuddered as a volley impacted its starboard section. Damage reports flooded in. 3 escort cruisers destroyed, 2 dreadnoughts severely damaged. The humans were targeting engines and weapons systems with unerring accuracy. These primitives fight without honor. Vexkar snarled. Where is their formation? Where is their command ship? The answer came in the form of the humanity's resolve suddenly appearing above the Inevitable Conquest, having approached from the sunward side where sensors were partially blinded. The human dreadnought unleashed a barrage directly into the Corm flagship's command tower. As systems failed around him and fires erupted on the bridge, Supreme War Leader Vexkar realized with dawning horror that the Corm Empire had made a terrible miscalculation. These humans did not fight like any species they had encountered before. They fought like demons. The Reckoning. Through the smoke-filled corridors of the Corm flagship Inevitable Conquest, Supreme War Leader Vexkar limped toward the emergency command center. Blood from a gash in his exoskeletal armor dripped onto the deck plates as alarms blared throughout the once mighty vessel. "Status report," he demanded, shoving aside a junior officer. "Multiple breaches across all decks. War Leader," his tactical officer responded, mandibles clicking nervously. "The human vessels are not following standard engagement protocols. They separate, regroup, attack from multiple vectors simultaneously. We cannot establish a defensive perimeter." Vexkar slammed his armored fist into a console. "They are primitives. Their technology is inferior." "Their technology, yes," the officer agreed hesitantly. "But their tactics." He gestured to the holographic display showing the chaotic battle unfolding around them. "They fight like hive predators, each ship acting independently yet in perfect coordination, and they target our vulnerabilities with uncanny precision." Outside, the United Earth Fleet executed the combat doctrine that humanity had perfected over thousands of years of warfare against itself. While other species evolved toward order and predictability, humans had emerged from chaos, their military strategies forged in endless conflicts where adaptation meant survival. Aboard the Humanity's Resolve, Admiral Donovan watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. "Commence Phase 2, he ordered. "Deploy the Phantoms." From the hangar bays of the human assault carriers erupted swarms of small, agile craft, Phantom-class infiltration vessels. Unlike conventional dropships, these were designed for stealth, their hulls incorporating metamaterials that absorbed sensor signals rather than reflecting them. "Ground teams, you are clear to deploy." Commander Sarah Keller's voice came through the secure channel. "Remember, this is a rescue operation first. Secure the Valyrian survivors and exfiltrate them to the designated safe zones." Major Talon Jackson of the 103rd Orbital Drop Infantry acknowledged the order as his Phantom plunged through Valyria's atmosphere. A veteran of 17 combat deployments across the solar system, Jackson had never imagined his skills would be tested against an alien enemy, but the mission parameters remained the same: protect the innocent, neutralize the threat. "Listen up, Razors," he addressed his squad. "Intel from the Valyrians indicates the Corm have established processing centers in the major cities. They're rounding up civilians for either slave conversion or immediate execution. Our targets are the 3 largest facilities in the capital region." Private Diaz, the squad's heavy weapons specialist, checked her pulse cannon. "So we're really doing this? Fighting honest-to-God aliens to save other aliens. Welcome to the future, Diaz." Jackson replied with a tight smile. "Just remember, the Corm might look scary, but they've never met anything like us." In the remains of the Valyrian capital, the Corm ground forces proceeded with mechanical efficiency. Towering over the slender Valyrians by nearly 2 meters, their armored exoskeletons and multiple limbs made them formidable predators. They had conquered dozens of species across their sector of the galaxy, and the process had become routine. Taskmaster Grenvac supervised the processing of Valyrian captives with board detachment. The weak, luminescent creatures barely put up a fight, their society having evolved beyond violence to such a degree that they lacked even the instinct for self-preservation. "This batch goes to labor processing," he ordered, indicating a group of younger Valyrians. "The elders to biological reclamation." A subordinate approached, its posture showing deference. "Taskmaster, we have lost contact with outposts 7 through 13. Communication interference is spreading across the sector." Grenvac's sensory appendages twitched in irritation. "The orbital battle must be affecting our relay systems. Double the processing speed. I want this sector cleared before." The wall behind him exploded inward, and through the smoke and debris came shapes unlike anything the Corm had encountered. Human soldiers in powered combat armor moved with a speed and aggression that momentarily stunned the Corm warriors. Major Jackson led the charge, his neural-linked targeting system identifying the Corm commander instantly. 2 precise shots from his Gauss rifle penetrated the alien's armor at the joint seams, a vulnerability identified by AI analysis during the approach to Valeria. "Razors, secure the civilians," Jackson shouted, already moving to his next target. Harper breached charges on the east wall. The Corm, despite their initial surprise, were formidable warriors. They recovered quickly, energy weapons cutting through the air as they formed a defensive line. What they failed to understand, however, was that humans had evolved as pack hunters who thrived on chaos. The Razors didn't stand in formation or advance in orderly lines. They leaped, rolled, and flanked, using the environment and smoke grenades to create confusion. Each soldier operated with near autonomy, following the overall mission parameters, but adapting moment by moment. Private Diaz took cover behind a fallen column, her pulse cannon whining as it reached full charge. "Major, heavy concentration, northeast corner." "I see them," Jackson replied, tossing a smart grenade that skittered across the floor and up the wall before detonating precisely in the midst of the Corm reinforcements. "Sawyer, Zhang, get those civilians moving toward the extraction point." The battle raged through the processing center, but the outcome was never truly in doubt. Though physically stronger and better armed, the Corm fought according to rigid protocols established over centuries of easy victories. The humans fought with the desperate creativity of a species that had nearly destroyed itself countless times, learning the hard lessons of survival against all odds. Within 20 minutes, the facility was secure. Lieutenant Sawyer guided traumatized Valyrians toward the waiting phantoms while the rest of the squad set charges to destroy the Corm equipment. "I've never seen anything like it," one of the Valyrian elders said, his translator converting his melodic speech. "You fought as if you knew their weaknesses already." Jackson helped the elder into the transport. "We've been fighting ourselves for thousands of years," he replied simply. "You learn to spot vulnerabilities quickly when your opponent thinks like you do." Across the planet, similar scenes unfolded as human special forces struck key Corm positions. The aliens' numerical and technological advantages were neutralized by humanity's unconventional tactics and adaptability. In orbit, the battle had shifted decisively in humanity's favor. The Corm fleet, designed for overwhelming force against conventional opponents, found itself outmaneuvered by the smaller but more agile human vessels. Admiral Donovan stood unshaken on the bridge of the Resolve as the ship absorbed another hit from a Corm dreadnought. "Target their propulsion systems and weapons arrays," he ordered. "Continue isolating their battle groups from each other." The communications officer turned from her station. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Corm flagship. They're requesting terms." A hushed silence fell over the bridge. The Corm Empire, according to Valyrian records, had never negotiated during a conquest. They dominated or destroyed, with no middle ground. "Put it through," Donovan said, straightening his uniform. The holographic display flickered to life, showing Supreme War Leader Vexkar. The alien commander's exoskeleton was cracked, green ichor seeping from multiple wounds. "You fight without honor," Vexkar began, his translated voice filled with equal parts rage and disbelief. "Without formation, without predictability. We fight to win," Donovan replied evenly. "Terms are simple: immediate withdrawal from Valyrian space, release of all prisoners, and a formal acknowledgement that this system is under Earth's protection." Vexkar's compound eyes seemed to narrow. "The Corm Empire has subjugated 100 worlds across 3 spiral arms. We have encountered countless species, primitive and advanced. None fight as you do." "That's because we evolved differently," Donovan explained, his tone almost professorial. "Humanity spent its history fighting itself. We've had no external enemies until now, so we perfected the art of killing each other. Every tactic your forces use, we developed and countered millennia ago." The alien commander was silent for a moment, processing this information. "The Valyrian transmission described you as peaceful explorers, seeking knowledge. We are that too," Donovan acknowledged. "Humanity contains multitudes, War Leader. We build and destroy, create and consume, love and hate with equal passion. The Valyrians called for protectors, so that is what we became. Another explosion rocked the Corm flagship, and Vexkar glanced at something off-screen before turning back to Donovan. "You have won this battle, human," he conceded. "But the Empire will not forget this humiliation." Donovan leaned forward slightly. "Good. Remember it well. Remember that humanity answered a call for help from a species we had never met, crossing vast distances to stand against an enemy that threatened them. Remember that we did not hesitate to fight and die for an ideal rather than conquest or resources." The Admiral's voice hardened. "And remember this above all. The Valyrians are now under our protection, as are any others who ask for our help against aggressors like you. If the Corm Empire wishes to test humanity's resolve again, we will be waiting." The transmission ended abruptly as the Corm flagship began emergency maneuvers to disengage from the battle. Throughout the system, the remaining Corm vessels followed suit, limping toward the quantum jump points that would carry them back to their territory. On the bridge of the Resolve, a spontaneous cheer erupted. Humanity had faced its first interstellar conflict and emerged victorious against overwhelming odds. 3 weeks later, First Speaker Lyria stood in the partially rebuilt Grand Assembly of Valyria Prime. Before her stood representatives of Earth, Admiral Donovan, Commander Keller, Major Jackson, and a diplomatic contingent led by United Earth Ambassador Elena Ravis. "The Valyrian people owe humanity a debt that can never be repaid," Lyria said, her translator conveying the emotion in her musical voice. "You came when no one else would, fought when no one else could, and saved us from extinction." Ambassador Rivas stepped forward. "The people of Earth did not answer your call for debt or obligation. First Speaker, we came because it was right, because we understand all too well the cost of standing alone against annihilation." Lyria gestured to a crystalline sculpture that dominated the center of the chamber, an artistic representation of human and Valyrian forms standing together. "This monument will remind future generations of the day aliens came from the stars, not to conquer, but to protect. Not with demands, but with open hands." She turned to Admiral Donovan. "Our scientists have already begun sharing our medical and environmental technologies with your people, as promised." Donovan nodded. "And Earth will establish a permanent defensive presence in your system to deter any future Corm aggression. But more importantly, this marks the beginning of a true alliance between our worlds." As the formal ceremony concluded, Major Jackson found himself approached by a group of young Valyrians, their bioluminescence pulsing with excitement. "The warriors who came from Earth," one said through a translator. "You fought like nothing we have ever seen. Will you teach us?" Jackson exchanged glances with Ambassador Rivas, who gave a subtle nod of approval. "We can teach you to defend yourselves," he agreed. "But in return, perhaps you can teach us some of your peaceful ways. Humanity has spent too long fighting ourselves. We're ready to learn another path." Later, aboard the Humanity's Resolve, Admiral Donovan stood at the viewport watching the gleaming blue sphere of Valyria Prime. Commander Keller joined him, data tablet in hand. "The Valyrian scientists have shared their star charts," she reported. "There are at least a dozen other civilizations within our reach that suffer under Corm domination or threats. And now they'll know there's an alternative," Donovan said quietly. "That somewhere in the dark between stars, humanity is listening for calls for help." Keller studied his profile. "The Corm will return, sir, and they won't underestimate us next time." Donovan's lips curved in a slight smile. "Good, neither will we. Humanity spent thousands of years finding ways to destroy itself. Now we found a better purpose for our warrior nature, defending those who cannot defend themselves." He turned from the viewport. "Prepare the fleet, Commander. We have a galaxy to introduce ourselves to." As the Resolve prepared to depart Valyrian space, word of humanity's victory was already spreading across quantum frequencies. Throughout the sector, oppressed species looked to the stars with something long forgotten: hope. And in the chambers of the Corm Imperial Palace, the Emperor himself received the disturbing news. A new species had emerged, unlike any encountered before. A species that combined the technological creativity of the most advanced civilizations with the savage ferocity of the most primitive. A species that fought not for conquest, but for ideals. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, and nothing would ever be the same again.